Welcome, guys. We are here. I'm with the love of my life, Alexis. We are actually going to tell some scary stories. Alright, so we both grew up in childhood homes that were haunted. So we both dealt with the paranormal at a very young age. So I'm going to let Alexis kind of tell her story while the cat climbs all over everything. Bring him in.
His name is Mr. Fizzy Winks.
That's the fattest cat you've ever seen, isn't it?
Oh,
it hit me in the face. Alright, so, yeah, I know myself. I grew up, a lot of weird stuff happened in my childhood home. But I think it was more of like the area I grew up in, but yours was more of the house itself, I think, right?
Basically, I grew up in a standard suburban neighborhood. My grandfather actually passed away when I was a baby, and he passed away pretty suddenly. But he did not pass away in the house that I grew up in. They were actually at a cabin, like on a campsite of some kind. The only reason I'm mentioning that is because I do feel like he might be one of the spirits that was in the house that I grew up in. So because the house I grew up in, I was there from a baby to like 15 years old. For the most part, like everything in between, it was mostly like just strange feelings, kind of like that hair standing up on the back of your neck kind of feeling. Kind of that feeling that you're definitely not in the room alone, or you're just not alone in general. One of the first things that I remember like definitely just in my mind was earlier in the day, my grandmother and my Aunt Alice, they had this like dinner they were going to together. And earlier in the day though, we went out to eat, me and my grandmother. It was at like a restaurant where they handed out balloons to like kids. So I had this yellow balloon. It was in the kitchen. My uncle was babysitting me while my grandmother and my Aunt Alice wanted to eat. And he's sitting on the couch. This balloon starts from the kitchen, like ducks under a doorway, takes a direct left turn, goes all the way down the hallway, ducks under another doorway into my grandmother's room.
Are you sure it wasn't Pennywise?
If it was the actor playing Pennywise, I'd be fine with it. I could. Anyway, it just looked like it was purposely being moved. And I just remember my uncle sitting on the couch, and my grandfather's name was Nathaniel, but they called him Nat, N-A-T. I just remember him looking at me and saying, "There's Nat."
Yeah, I never really had anything like that. Like, never had, like, family members actually in my house. I think our land was haunted. Because, like, after everything was said and done, years later, they were, like, digging up a pond that we had out there on the property I grew up on. And my brother and I, out of just being kids, we had little sand sifters. And we would go out and go into those piles of sand they were digging out and sift through them. And we were finding arrowheads just left and right. And so I think like the land itself for us was what was haunted.
And in burial ground.
Yeah, I think I definitely had this one incident where it was like I actually got like punished for it because they thought that I had done it. And what had happened was the electricity had gone out. So we had this kerosene lantern. So it had the glass bulb that was kerosene and had the little handle that you turn to make the wick and the flame go higher or lower. And then you had the glass cover that would obviously keep you away from the flame, and we were all hanging out in the living room by the fireplace, and we had the fire going, so it was light in the whole room. And the bathroom wasn't too far away, and I had to go to the bathroom, so I walk in the bathroom. But we had the kerosene lantern in there, so we could see while we were going to the bathroom, and it was sitting on the back of the toilet. And I remember sitting there while I was using the restroom and like watching it, and all of a sudden like the little handle started turning, the little knob started turning, which caused the flame to get taller, and the flame just kind of just rose taller and taller and taller until all of a sudden, like, the top of this glass just shatters. And my dad came in just, like, so mad because I was playing with the fire. Understandably, I'm a kid, and he told me not to play with the fire, and all of a sudden the fire is being played with. To this day, I'm telling you, like, that, I didn't touch that thing. Yeah. So, I mean, for the longest time, like, I still can see that flame rising, and you know, going to sleep at night, I would see shadows walking by because I was a kid. I needed the hallway light on. I couldn't sleep in the dark. Why would I sleep in the dark? So I saw this hall, like, down through the hallway. I could just see shadows, like, marching by constantly by her door. And, like, all night long, it was just, like, I would wake up and just see, like, stuff walking.
One of the really, like, a lot more cooler things that happened, I guess, in a way, was at one point, my grandmother lost a diamond out of her ring, and we're out in, I can't remember where we were, like out in public at the mall or stores or something, and we had been gone all day, in and out of places here and there, in and out of the car, in other stores, whatever. She looks down and she realizes she's missing a diamond out of a ring that was actually a specialty ring that was conjoined from her engagement ring and her wedding ring combined. He was a jeweler or worked with jewelry and was a jeweler along those lines. That's what he did, basically. Well, obviously, because of the fact that it was involving her engagement and wedding ring, it was incredibly emotional for her. I just remember going back home that evening, her just like puffy, weeping, and just terrible. That night, we pulled open my pajama drawer. I was like a little kid, this like little kid. She opens up my pajama drawer, and like the diamond is sitting perfectly on top of a shirt folded in my dresser. Just sitting there perfectly. Okay, so you're going, oh, it's just a coincidence. Probably just knocked it off when she was doing something earlier. But let's skip forward a few years. This is like right before I moved out of that house. So we're looking at 14, 15 years old.
Yeah, let's say you were in your teenager.
This ring, I don't know if you can actually see it from there. Either way, I'm wearing like one of the comedy tragedy mask rings that I've worn literally since I was like 10 years old.
Yeah, you and I actually go back to high school, and then we kind of lost touch for a while.
Yeah.
But even when we got back and we like met back up, like you were still wearing that ring. So even in high school when we were teenagers, 15, 16 years old, you had that ring and you're still wearing it.
Anyways, so I was like probably about 14 years old. We had gone out to a place called the Liberty Bell pool. It's this gigantic like mountain spring fed water pool, Olympic size kind of situation. Anyways, we were out there swimming, all this kind of stuff. As we were getting out of the pool and getting ready to leave and stuff like that, I just so happened to like glance down and I realized this ring was missing, and obviously I was incredibly upset. And all the way home, I just remember crying. That night, guess where we found it? In the same dresser, sitting directly and neatly on top of clothes folded up inside the dresser. I mean, that still gives me chills. Like that freaked me out because
crazy.
I mean, it immediately made us think of years before when the same thing happened to my grandmother when she lost a diamond out of a ring.
The chances of both of you guys losing something very sentimental to you. Yeah, and find it in the same spot. When my grandfather growing up, who I was super close with, my mom's father, he had this gold watch that he would wear every single day that apparently his father gave to him for his graduation. And what was really cool about it was at the time, it was really never heard of, but it actually, the battery could be charged through solar power. Like it actually be charged from being outside. And at this point, I'm a teenager. He is in his 60s, 70s. He ended up getting really sick. He went to the hospital. He had actually got sick at night. And so he had taken his watch off and laid it down, and he went to the hospital, and he passed away. And when we were going through his house, I found that watch. And when I picked it up, it had stopped, and the watch had died at the exact same time that he passed away at like 2:15 in the morning. And
I would have been like, oh my gosh. Like,
I still have that watch to this day, and it's still set at the same time. It's something that was always just kind of really cool to me, was the fact that that was his, like, he wore that watch every day, and it stopped the same time technically he did.
Crazy.
Well, guys, that's our stories. That's what we have from some of our childhood. There's plenty more. So I think every week we're going to sit down. We're going to tell some of our stories. We're going to tell other stories. If you guys have any stories, put them in the comments below. If you have anything you want to talk about or everything, we'd love to hear you guys' stories. It's going to be amazing. Hit that like button. Subscribe so you can hear more of our stories. We got plenty more. We got Monster Mondays coming up. Stay spooky.